All right, yes, indeed. We've got Mr. Solomon Dalung joining us here this morning. He's the former Minister of Sports. He was there with the former administration. Good morning and Happy New Year to you. Thank you for coming on today.
Chamberlain, good morning, and good morning, Nigerians.
Oh, yes, indeed. And I haven't seen you ever since you lost your parents. So I can officially say our condolences to you and the family.
Thank you very much.
All right, so with this launch yesterday, it got many tongues wagging, even though Mr. Additional said he's writing about the software, not the hardware, but he went on to talk about some of the experiences. He said, no, he will leave out the policy, infrastructural development to several other people, but he focused on other aspects, which even though he still got several people thinking, but you were also in that government, you've heard what was said about the former president. So what were your immediate thoughts listening and watching how everything just unfolded, knowing that everybody saw how the government unfolded?
Well, you see, in history, documentation is very critical. I think Additional has told his own story from his own perspective. So Buhari's administration will be like the narration of the 5 blind men. And so everybody has his experience of where he touched. And that will be how Buhari's government. So we are yet to have an end to books titled Working with Buhari, because we need to have so many people putting their experiences. But from the perspective with which Additional published, I think he limited his understanding of what took place to being the spokesperson of the president. But the book does not cover comprehensively, what the government did in 8 years, the challenges, some of the intrigues, the power play, the relationship between the key actors and then the MDS. I think we need to have a detailed account of how Buhari run his government. But what he has done is wetting the lips of Nigerians and just scratching the back.
Interestingly, another set of books were also co-launched alongside this book. I think it was called The Legacy of Buhari, and those ones were a bigger volume. They have about 5 copies or so. I think it has five volumes.
Yeah.
It was edited. I'm trying to remember the name of the person. Dr. Idu Hassan also edited that compile. Dr. Udu Yakubu edited the books yesterday. That was also launched as well. So do you think that perhaps there was an attempt to try and give a very comprehensive, yes, Mr. Additional wrote this from his own perspective, but then looking at that comprehensive, compilation, do you think it is an attempt to give a more holistic outlook of what the Buhari years were like?
The report about maybe about Buhari's government has not been that comprehensive, and most of those who have written have only covered their areas of interest. I give an example. There was a publication, the midterm report of Buhari's administration, and that publication, I was in government, but completely all the achievements recorded in sports was not mentioned. So that signifies the fact that those who are publishing chooses what to publish. And I went to the president and said, well, we made more remarkable achievement than any ministry within the first 2 years. We were able to commission projects which even the Ministry of Works, Power and Housing, even to the end of our tenure, could not even commission a 10-kilometer road. So why was it not contained in that publication? And he only apologized to me, and said it was maybe the error of those who were compiling it. So what you have been published will be what interests the publishers. But I think, to be fair to Nigerians, we need a publication that will comprehensively assess Buhari's government policies, aligning policies, campaign promises, and what the government was able to achieve. So I'm not more or less trying to blame those who have made that attempt, but in academics, they have just set the ball rolling.
Well, when these books are written like this, you know, while some people will say, well, it's extremely important that, you know, the administration of any leader be documented. Even in businesses, it is important that, you know, leaders' administrations are documented, not to not talk of, you know, a country, you know, or even within the political arena. But some will also view this as an attempt to whitewash you know, what has happened. Because if, for a number of Nigerians, or for many Nigerians, they believe that if a government has done well, they will know. They would feel it by the impact and the legacy left by that person. And if the person hasn't done well, they will also know, ultimately, they are supposed to be the ones who give the verdict as to whether or not an administration has done well or not. Do you agree with them?
Yeah, I agreed entirely. You see, to speak of a legacy of an administration, you don't need to ask somebody in Metama, somebody in Mararaba. The story, the experiences of somebody from Mararaba is likely going to be more genuine about the impact of the government on the lives of the people than anybody living in Metama. So what we are having here now is, I mean, those from the comfort zones are telling their stories of the legacies. And they've excluded the Nigerians, fellow Nigerians, who even invested their monies in campaigning for the change in 2015. I had a time to quarrel when one of such documents was launched while we were in office. And all the people that were gathered there were elites. And I asked Governor Mosun, who was the chairman of the book launch, about the president. I said, these people you gathered here, where were they when we were campaigning for the president? The president was sponsored by Nigerians who even scratched cards, donated their money, squandered their businesses to install a leader. And then you are launching a book about them, and you are calling people who didn't even believe in him to come and gather here to give money. I told him this wasn't right. So what you find happening here, people are trying to invent legacies. And I will give you an example. You had the vice president mentioning my name about
your engagement in the Niger Delta.
The Niger Delta.
Yeah.
Now, not much is even said about that. He just went by passing. But the entire groundwork of the stability of the Niger Delta region was done by me. And I went into the creek alone, without any security, without anybody. I spent 2 hours on the high sea, and I engaged these young people. We held discussion. We had even written documents. They gave me a charter of demand, which I returned to the president. Can you find this in any of Buhari's legacies? So nobody will tell the stories of what actually happened. But they will just try to whitewash and appease, invent legacies for Buhari.
Those are part of what many don't understand is because, I mean, last time we spoke with you, you did say that, true to type, that the president actually wanted people that can tell him the truth. That was why he called you, come on board. Mr. Additional also highlighted in his book that, well, the president told him, in the first instance, look, I need you to tell me the truth. That the office we're in now, chances are that it might be difficult for people to tell me the truth. If you want to see me and they block you, don't let anybody block you. Always come to me and tell me the truth. So in that context, many then wonder, was it that he was not fully aware of what was going on in the country in terms of the policies and how things panned out? Did those who tried to shield him overshadow those who could tell him the truth?
Those who did not like the president had their way because they formed the perimeter walls around the president and allowing people to assess him. But to be very fair and honest to President Buhari, President Buhari loves the truth. Because if you were able to assess him and tell him the truth, he will listen. But again, if he's going to act, it is these same people around him that are going to convey whatever directives he will give. And this was where the problem came from. The last time I saw the president was on March 3rd, 2020. And I told the president...
2020?
Yes.
That's a long time ago.
Very good. And I told the president all that was happening in the country, including the deteriorating security situation, and drew his attention that this wasn't what we campaigned for and promised Nigerians, and that I was appealing to him to take a drastic step and deal with this issue because he is a retired general. And if he cannot deal with insecurity in Nigeria, I don't see anybody coming to deal with it. And the president assured me that he was going to act. And he appealed to me that I should please kindly always come round to tell him this truth. And that was the last time I saw him. Even though I prophesied to him that this will be the last time I'll be seeing you, because I would have ruffled shoulders with this my idea. And like I kept saying, I'm a very handsome man, but very ugly in the mouth, because I will not fail to tell you the truth as it is, whatever you're going to do. So the president listened to me. He promised to act. But these same people around him, sadly, when he gave me an appointment again, I went to the villa. I traveled out of the country. I was out of the country. I came back. I went to the villa, and I was told, oh, it was a mistake. I had to leave.
Well,
let me read what Mr. Adesina wrote here on page 367. It's chapter 24, page 367 of the book. And in this chapter, he's talking about insecurity. He said insecurity, he spoke to them in the language they understood. Of course, that statement came from somewhere, one of the controversial statements that the president had given when he went to the Southeast. But that's the title of the chapter. Now, he says, except for those who cavil, carp, and grouch, honest Nigerians know that Muhammadu Buhari fought insecurity to a standstill in the country. That's the opening statement in that chapter. Is it a statement you agree with?
I don't. I can only agree that, in the first 1 year of his tenure, the president engaged in security and was able to recover about 24 local governments from Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe. But the subsequent development from 2019 till when the president left the office, we were under the rule of bandits, terrorists, and criminal gangs. The president kept promising, oh, we will deal with the situation, and each time he makes that statement, the terrorists become more emboldened and they persist in their attacks. So I think Adesina should draw a line between when the president dealt with insecurity and what happened subsequently. And Nigerians are living with the trauma of his last 4 years.
So what do you think accounts for that disparity? If someone like Mr. Adesina believes that the president fought security to a standstill, and you believe that he didn't, and many Nigerians will agree with you. Today, insecurity is a problem. Even the current president says we have to see what they can do. Yesterday, he summoned his security chiefs. It's still a major problem. What do you think accounts for that disparity?
I can say, I think, like I said earlier, trying to invent a legacy where it does not exist. The narrative must be put clean and clear. From 2019 to 2023, some of the devastating security situations we had in the country we've never experienced it. Talked about the Abuja, Kaduna, Trent kidnap. Where the victims spent so many months in the hands of the bandits. talked about the kidnapping of students in the universities, talked about even when the president visited Daura, 365 secondary school students were kidnapped a few hours after he landed in Daura. Additional did not even attempt to explain how these issues were resolved.
No, but you haven't read the book, have you?
No, I've not read the book, but that statement, that very statement was too sweeping.
It's the opening statement of the chapter. I'm sure that when he makes that sort of statement, he goes on ahead to break in detail what he means by that, or to reiterate how he got to this conclusion, because it does appear that he makes a statement and then he goes down to explain why he's reached that conclusion in his statement. But I want to know, I'm not making any excuses. I haven't read the entirety of the book. I'm just thinking that this is perhaps what he has done in the book, to make such a categorical statement. But I'm wondering, is there, looking at how, or listening to Mr. Femi Adesina yesterday, and you talked about how, many people fought for this president to be installed in 2015, how ordinary Nigerians believed that he held the solutions to their problems, and they even, contributed to his campaigns. Mr. Adesina spoke yesterday because it would seem that when the president started, he had a lot of loyalists. By the time he was done, or from 2019 up to 2023, it would seem that the landscape of his loyalists were changing. You have also alluded to that. And at yesterday's event, because at the end of 2023, when he handed over, a lot of things started to come to the open, and then people started to say all manner of things. And even the so-called loyalists, it would seem that some of them had already changed their own garb as well. But yesterday, Mr. Adesina said that, some people have asked why he's remained so loyal to the president. And he says that, President Buhari is a conviction. He used that word. I don't know if you heard it. It's a conviction. In other words, it almost sounded like an article of faith. Almost like if you're a Christian, you're a Christian. Almost like if you're a Muslim. Something to that effect. Something that is a conviction. Are you still convinced? Because somehow you say that the president is a man of truth, is a man who likes to listen to the truth. Are you still convinced in the persona of President Buhari? Do you think that he was affected by those who were around him? Or do you think that perhaps we didn't just understand who the person was?
No, I'm convinced as Adesina is on this issue. I have said this here.
You are convinced?
Yes, that Buhari as a person is different from Buhari as a president. I've said this here.
As a president?
Yes. Buhari as a person is a different personality. And the Buhari I know as a person and Buhari as a president are two different things. Because as a president, Buhari had promises he made to Nigeria. And I'm convinced that, the personality of Buhari should translate the Buhari I know into the benefit of Nigerians. That is what made me to go out of my way to support him. But disappointingly, we were unable to fulfill these promises. And I kept saying this. But that does not mean that I do not believe in Buhari. I believe in him.
Mr. Adesina also sees things differently, because he also, in the book, indicated that before his appointment, while they took some names to the president, several names were there. His was also there. So when he looked through the names, he circled his and signed on it, meaning he valued loyalty. This was several years after that particular incident. And then one then wonders, you were close to him, he remembered what Mr. Adesina had done previously before that time. So what could have happened? Why was he that? Did he, or was there any time, because you said the last time you saw him was 2020. So while the government ended, or towards the end of the government, if he valued loyalty, as we were told in the book, did he call you or anyone saying, look, even if they try to stop me, he would have remembered that these are persons who have been close to me. What do you think could have gone wrong in that instance?
I told you here that what happened to me as a person was caused by the president himself. Because the president seems to show some love for my person while I was in office. And that did not go down well with so many people around him who felt that they have been working with him closely from the PTF to when he became president. But some of us were his supporters politically from a distance. So this played out in their trying to shield anybody whom they perceive the president has shown that love to him. And there were reasons why the president at least could show that love. And one was this Niger Delta issue. Because the risks I took, he tried everything possible to discourage me from going into the creek. And I told him, 3 things will happen to me. I will come back alive, I will be kidnapped, I will be killed. Then he asked me this question, but why would you want to take that risk? And I told him, I can lay my life for this country. From that point, he started praying and I left from my office and went. So some of the things I did closely with the president, some which I cannot say here, closely with the president, endeared me to the president and also make me an enemy of people around him.
You know, in the same book as well, the author, contrary to what many thought, towards the end of the tenure, you become a lame duck. But he says, nope, that the president was even working up until the last day. In that same chapter, he spoke about insecurity. He chronicled activities, a checklist over months of the action he was taking to rout the bandits and things like that. And you know, add to that, this is not the first time he's in that position. He's been there as head of state. So he's supposed to come with all that experience to know how to weather the storm. So in spite of all that was written here, the accounts of what we still see about security, many find it hard to reconcile what he was doing at the time and the kind of results people saw. But you gave us an inkling saying personality, the person you know, and the president as a president were 2 different things.
Yes, the president was working in his office till the last day. But were people around him also working? Because that the president was working 24 hours. Whatever he was doing must be translated by the people he has recruited to help him work. Were they also working? If they were also working, it would have translated into actions, which Nigerians would have been saying something different. So I think, like I know the president, he will tell you, if you go to him and complain, he will tell you, but I am doing my own job. Why are others not doing it? And I told him, no, it is not done that way. These people you are referring to, you brought them to help you work, were not elected. So at the end of the day, you will be held responsible and not these people. So the president would have been working in his office, but people around him, were they working? And that is the 1 million question that Nigerians will answer.
Nigerians will answer. Well, as you said, it was the president who brought them. And it is his legacy which, you know, will be affected by whether or not they work. I'm just curious, because I'm sure that even the president must be, the former president now will be listening to some of the things that, you know, are documented to have happened in his own administration. Some of them he even gave his own consent to it by the statements that he made. One of them, for instance, is this Naira redesign. I mean, some people have said, no, it wasn't the president who sanctioned it. But I know that to the recollection of many Nigerians, the president came out with 2 statements on 2 different occasions, you know, endorsing that Naira redesign, which caused a lot of hardship. I mean, as we speak, we're still feeling the effect of Naira redesign, and we understand there's Naira scarcity. It's very difficult to explain. But these are some of the things we've heard. We've also heard someone no less than the NSA, National Security, and the current NSA, saying that they inherited a bankrupt economy. These are the things that we have heard, you know, we're still hearing, and we're feeling, we're experiencing. Inflation is at an all-time high. People cannot understand precisely what's going on with their earnings vis-a-vis the things that they have to buy. So when you look at the results vis-a-vis you know, what some of the things that we're reading and the hard work that the president put in while he was in office, how come it is that it's not quite adding up? It's not quite at the same level that it ought to be.
You see, for the Naira design, I have not met with the president to be able to make any statement. But even if I'm given Bible, I will swear that the president approve it. Because Naira design appeals to his sentiment. When he was a military head of state, that was the same thing he did. So if it was again done this time around, I have every reason to believe that he is aware of it. That one, you cannot take it away from the president. But the attendant consequences of the policy, I doubt if that was also explained to the president. And his apologies, as you could hear him re-echo yesterday, extended to the hardship inflicted on Nigerians by that policy. So the president was not too informed as to the consequences as it turned out to be. Now back to the issue of inheriting a bankrupt economy. You know, this administration should not embark on a blame game, because a blame game will take them nowhere. The president, while campaigning, had every opportunity to be able to know the state of the nation. That explains his campaign promises. Secondly, he failed to set up a transition committee which should have taken over the government and provide him with adequate information about the state of the nation. So he went on to rely on the transition committee of the government, and he took over. So he knew the situation of the country, and he had solutions to the problems. That was why he contested, campaigned, and won. So the National Security Advisor should desist from creating a panic to Nigerians. This is not about the time they are talking about it. If they inherited a bankrupt economy, we are hearing stories of billions of money now being shared by ministries, transferred of billions made in 40 billion in 4 days. These monies are coming from where? In a bankrupt economy, and you're having this type of allegations of monumental looting going on just within 6 months? That does not explain a bankrupt economy. It explains, being economical with the truth. So the National Security Advisor should come clean. The government should come clean and tell us, in any case, Buhari himself inherited a bankrupt economy. As a minister, I spent 3.5 years with my own vehicle. I was staying in a hotel. I didn't have a house. In a year, instead of 12 months monthly subvention, the highest I got in 4 years was 6 months. So Buhari also inherited bankrupt economy. And if he has handed over the same to them, it's unfortunate. It shouldn't have been the case, because that wasn't what we wanted. But then they knew what they were buying.
Ayo.
What strikes me the most about this conversation is the power dynamics. I mean, you've spoken about quite a few times about the fact that there are people around the president, and that when the president makes a preference, expresses his preference, there are the people around the president that say one thing or the other, that don't like the persons that the president likes and all of that. Can you speak to us about that? Because there are a number of people who believe that, to a large extent, the powers around the president or the influences around the president at any time did quite significantly to influence how his governance was felt or not felt in all across the country. Can you talk to us about the power dynamics, particularly behind the president, around the president and the corridors of power?
I will begin by saying that I was in the transition committee that took over power and handed it over to the president. And on the day we went to take over the villa from the then President Jonathan. I mean, there was something the president said after we were gathered at the car park to take off. He said, this environment is not habitable for a Nigerian president. And I asked him why. And he said, it's too serene, too isolated from the country. So he was not going to live here. But of course, the same power cabal ended up taking him to the villa, which he said he was not going to live there. Understanding the power dynamics around a president is a complete symposium topic and research that a lot of people will need to dive into to understand. There are people within the presidency that you see them as just mere aides, but they are more powerful even than the ministers. They block the ministers from even seeing the president. I can remember that while we were in office, not so many of my colleagues had the privileges of seeing the president. Some of them could only see the president after the Federal Executive Council meeting. They put up memo to see the president. These custodians of the power base will determine when to see the president and how. There was a time we had challenges in the NYSC. The non-payment of allowances, and then we have a backlog of corpus to be mobilized. Now, it became a serious security issue because they were threatening massive demonstration. And I went to the villa 5 times to see the president and brief him. And on each occasion I go, in the office of the chief of staff, I will be told the president was very busy. Until when the issue became explosive and the DSS generated a security report. And when the DSS generated a security report and it came to the knowledge of the president, those who blocked me went there and leveled allegation that, they have not had anything from the minister responsible. And when I was invited, I went to 5 different memos in my armpit with different dates, and I gave the president. The president understood what was going on. On one of the occasions, I went, there were very serious issues of funding for an international sports event. And I kept going to the villa, and I was being told, the president is busy and this and that. Then one day, I sent a text directly to the president, and then the president gave me an appointment against their will. So when I went to the president, I told the president, I've written 5 different memos to you on 5 critical issues. The president said, no single memo before me. And I have learned the antics. So while going, I'm always with an envelope in my armpit. And the envelope will contain the photocopies of the memos. So I removed this one. The president said, no, I've not seen this. He signed. 5 memos were approved. And the president's reply came to me based on those 5 photocopies I gave the president. This is how these powerful people sitting down there. Sometimes they can even in the office of the chief of staff approve something and send to you and the president approve. But any approval that originates from the president will have a photocopy of that same approval signed attached to a letter from the office of the chief of staff conveying the approval. Anything shortfall of that is an ambush. It means the memo has been ambushed and those replying are replying without the knowledge of the president.
Well, this is very, very revealing to a number of people. So there are those who have always believed, and I think that is what you are speaking to now, that there was some kind of power cabal, some cabal, that affected, that were around the president, that influenced most of the things that he did. How influential, positively or negatively, would you say that this power cabal affected the governance of President Buhari while he was in office? How much were they able to impact positively or negatively, such that people believe that those people say, you know, I mean, I don't know, you will still find it on Twitter or X. May we not see the Buhari years again? How powerful, how influential were those power cabals to influence such a reaction from the people?
I can say, ratio 80 to 20. 80 negatively and 20 positively.
And
because most of the things they allow to pass through during the time we were in office. Because like I said, we run a serious battle with them, especially in my own ministry. Most of the memos that were approved, majority I have to follow it up and even get the level of the president to personally have it approved. I give you another example of the negative things that happen. This issue of the much talk about the Super Falcons winning their 8th championship in Cameroon. I applied for the funds for this competition 3 months before the commencement of the competition. The memo spent 3 months in the office of the president without a reply, despite repeated visits, until we went to Cameroon, won and returned, and I returned with the team. When I returned with the team, the late chief of staff to the president went to the airport to receive the team without even letting me know. The next day, I was told that the team was in the front of the villa demonstrating the non-payment of the allowances. And the late chief of staff called me and said, Minister, why did you have to do this? You didn't even tell us they were a competition and this and that. So the girls are here demonstrating. And I told him, sir, I am coming to join them with my own leave because I am supposed to be protesting before them. My memo for their monies was sent 3 months and is still in your office. He hung up the call, and he didn't say anything about it. So when we went to the Federal Executive Council, I told the president in council, I said, I was being attacked and insulted by Nigerians over this issue, but the problem was not caused by me. The problem was from your office. And I took it because I couldn't have told Nigerians then that a memo for Women African Championship in Cameroon spent 3 months in the office of the president before it was attended to. Finally, the chief of staff, the late chief of staff to the president, got the money from where he got it, I didn't know, paid the girls quietly when I told him that, I have much to say about the protest, and I'm also a protester. So this is how this thing affects negatively. And many of the ministers had this problem. The Minister of Health, Professor had his budget transferred from Minister of Health to Minister of Agriculture because he was disagreeing with the power base. So you can see that, it affected governance more negative.
Just one more question from me, sir. Do you think these cabals are avoidable by any president or governor in Nigeria? If you think it is possible, what needs to be done? If you think it is not possible, then what do we do?
The cabal is possible and is also avoidable. The only way you can avoid this cabal is while making your first critical appointments, which is the chief of staff, the secretary to government, national security advisor, minister of justice. You must also be able to bring people whom you know and believe in your vision. But you see, this cabal we are talking about, their foot soldiers are more active than them. Their foot soldiers are They don't hold strategic appointment. They are either PA or SA to the chief of staff or this. These are the people that pick information. These are the people that leak memos. These are people that monitored everything the president is doing, and then they will be relating it to the main power base, which is outside the government. Even this very government has already been hijacked by the cabal.
All right, we'll have to anchor at that point. We do thank you very much indeed for coming on. Mr. Solomon Dalung, former Minister for Sports. We're back in just a moment, everyone. Don't go away.